Ignite to Impact.
There. Hi, this is Dr. Geneva. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to today's conversation about the top strategies to turn concern, worry, doubt into positive change. Yes, indeed. You know, we've been talking about all the things that have been occurring, not just in the pandemic, but really this post-pandemic era. Because what we want to do is, you know, we keep saying how normal it is, the new normal, but it really isn't. And so we've been talking about various strategies that you can use to be in this so-called new normal environment. And, you know, a big part of this, I think, you know, as we move forward is about we tend to get worried or concerned or doubtful. At least I know I do. But the thing I have to keep reminding myself is that I'm not alone when I'm worried, okay? Because the research says that millions and millions of people worry. And in fact, many people are in a state of worry these days. Millions of people have been laid off, so they're worried about their jobs and what they're going to do. We've had death and just loss from the COVID. So people are worrying about living and being able to connect with people. And, you know, all that worry tends to affect our physical health as well. And so, you know, I want you to join in with us today as we talk about these worries and concerns and doubt, and particularly how they affect our physical and emotional health. But then, hey, what are the strategies to turn that around, to do something about it so that we can live and think positively? And so for those of you I haven't met before, I'm Dr. Geneva. I'm a leadership strategist and host of this Ignite to Impact podcast live. As many of you know, I've been doing Ignite to Impact for about 3 years now. And what the podcast is all about is success strategies, stories, and secrets that can help you make an extraordinary impact in your own life, with others around you, and in the community. And through the years, we've talked to fabulous people from all over the country. And I got more and more requests to bring this live, the conversations live. So here it is live. And as is the tradition on the Ignite to Impact podcast, I bring you super talented, super duper folk who have not only stories to share, but also the ups and downs of things and real practical, you can do it, simple strategies so that you can be successful. I call them success strategies. Okay. And so today is no exception. So I want to first introduce you to my special guest who's in the green room waiting to come on. And she is Dr. Pauline Furman. She's the owner and director of the Center for Individual and Family Counseling. She's an author and leader in the field of individual and family counseling, as well as an expert in trauma events. So that means she helps people who are hurting. And so that's one of the reasons that I just love talking to her and learning from her. She's an award-winning leader in the Detroit and metropolitan community, as well as the state of Michigan. She received the Women of Excellence Award for her lifetime of achievement and work that she's done. And she got that from the Michigan Chronicle. She is just someone who I wanted you to meet, particularly when I became aware of her book. Now, listen to the title of this book. Now, she's written several books, but her latest book is When God Shows Up on the Couch. Now, tell me, now, don't you want to meet her? Okay. And I want you to know that her book is required reading at the Ecumenical Theological Seminary. So see, you know why I said we got to meet her. So come on in and join us, Dr. Pauline Furman. How are you today?
I am fantastic, Dr. Geneva, and I truly thank you so much for this opportunity. You've laid it out so well in terms of the stressors that so many of us are experiencing, and also an opportunity for me to integrate the physical piece surrounding physical health, as well as mental health, and some strategies that we might be able to use, because this has been an unprecedented time in our life. I
Yes.
only had one patient whose grandfather died at 104. He died in April of last year. He was the only person that I knew of who lived through the pandemic 100 years ago.
Oh my
So
goodness.
he was
Oh
4
my
years
goodness.
old.
Well, let's start with that because that's phenomenal. So one of your patients, I just want to hear this. One of your patients experienced the pandemic we had in, was it 1912?
Yes.
The first, and he was 4 years old. So tell us about what challenges he faced during that pandemic.
Well, he was only 4, and he does remember a family member dying in his home from the pandemic. So that is the only individual that I am aware of who had that experience that we have been living through since March of 2020.
And so he did experience the death and the trauma of that so many of us have experienced either personally or we've worried about it. So, I want to jump right in. First of all, Dr. Furman, help us understand what you mean when you say emotional health, behavioral health. Help us understand some of the terms and the language.
For sure. When we're talking about emotional health, we're talking about your feelings. You may be mad, glad, scared, sad, upset, disgusted, frustrated, anxious. All of those would fit into emotional phases of your experience in this life. Behavioral has to do with how you act. How does that come out? How do you display yourself behaviorally when you are experiencing perhaps a stressful event? So you mentioned that I do trauma, and I do. I go on site for homicides, death on the job, suicides, and bank robberies. So oftentimes individuals are traumatized because they may have discovered, which was the case in the spring of this year. I had to go to a hotel in Detroit where a maintenance man had to check. It was a hotel that had been renovated into apartments. So he had to go into a storage unit, which is where he found a dead body. So he was traumatized from what he saw. This was a mid-30s African-American male who had never considered therapy, which was then mandated by the building manager. He was delighted to have had that experience because he would have never pursued counseling on his own. But it gave him an opportunity to express what he felt, what he saw, and how afraid he was.
Mhm.
So his behavior was rather sullen. He was in shock. He had uh, a fervent brow, so his eyes were tightly closed. He was nervous. He was shaking. So all of us may have different reactions to different experiences.
Got it. Yeah, and I love how you broke that down. How we uh, feel, how
Yes,
we act, and
yes.
the relationship between the two. That is so incredible. And so I'm hearing you also say, Dr. Furman, that even though he had this traumatic experience, he was, I think you used the word delighted to have the opportunity to explore himself and what was going on. Is that what happened?
Absolutely. He also admitted he never would have pursued counseling on his own. It was because the building manager mandated it for everybody that had
Ah,
been in
okay.
contact with
Mhm.
him, because he had to call a supervisor to come and look in that storage room. So
Mhm.
there was more than one person that was affected by that, as well as looking at the police come in to remove the body. It was traumatic for
Yes,
several.
yes.
But as a 30 something African American male who had never considered counseling, when that 1.5 hour session was over with the entire department, he acknowledged that he was glad that he had attended, as
Mhm.
well as several other men, because it was a whole male staff of maintenance crew.
Mhm.
And another man said, you know what, I'm going through a divorce. And I'm really glad that I now know that it's okay to seek help.
Mhm. And that's what I was going to ask you, Dr. Furman, because many of us may not have experienced that kind of trauma, that is, finding a dead body and
Yes.
all that went along with that particular man's situation.
Yes.
But in everyday life, stuff happens.
You're right. You're right.
And how do you and so how do people deal with the everyday challenges that happen that
Well,
may seem traumatic to us?
well, they are. And as you alluded to earlier, people have lost jobs, people have lost loved ones, people have lost friends, people have struggled through this pandemic. This has been unprecedented. So we are experiencing a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of depression. We are struggling with a
Mhm.
variety of concerns. So as we look at anxiety, and what is that about? That means that you may feel anxious. You may have the inability to focus. You may be easily distracted. You may be lethargic. There can be a lot of symptoms that you're experiencing. And if they are prolonged more than 2 weeks, then my recommendation would be to get some assistance.
Mhm.
Depression, you may feel sad. You may be unable to sleep well or sleeping too much. You may have a low appetite, or your appetite may be increased. You may be stressed to the point that it's difficult to get out of bed. You don't feel like putting on your clothes. You don't want to take a shower. Anything that lasts more than 2 weeks is serious. So my recommendation is to get some help, because everyday life is upon us. We have fear. We are afraid of breathing sometimes, because
Mhm.
who's standing by us? Are we 6 feet apart? How are we dealing with the stressors of now, in some cases, being required to go back into an office to work? Many people have been working from home. Many have been struggling with virtual education for their children and trying to work from home and educate young people. This has been difficult.
Yes, yes. And so, Dr. Furman, I had, while we were going through pandemic, I know lots of other people said, I just can't wait till this is over.
Yes.
This has got to be over. We're looking forward to when I can, go outside, take off the mask,
Yes.
all of that. But
Yes.
now that we're in it, that is post pandemic, and many places, including Michigan, are opening up again.
Yes.
Do the worry, concerns, and fears, they still seem to be around?
They are.
How do the doubts and worries and fears of the when we were in pandemic compare to the worries, fears, and doubts we're having now? Are they different? Are we seeing, do we handle them differently?
I think they are still present. I think they may have subsided some as we look at some folks who made the decision to get vaccinated, some folks who
Okay.
made the decision not to get vaccinated. We have anxiety surrounding who can you socialize with? Can you socialize with people inside your home, at a restaurant, at a concert? What kinds of things are you comfortable doing? We
Mhm.
still have a variant. The Delta variant is on the rise. So the pandemic is not over. We are still
Okay.
amidst it. And the data says we still need to be cautious. The
Mhm.
CDC says you want to make sure that you wear a mask when you are out and about around others that you don't know. And we're trying to use this honor system so that people know that if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask around me. Other people are fearful because many have not been vaccinated. We've got lotteries going on, try to encourage people to get vaccinated. It's different feelings and beliefs about the whole thing.
Yes, yes. And I see some of our comments are really appreciative of the fact that we're talking about, you know, not only the worry, but some of the trauma that people have gone through. And except, Dr. Furman, I got to ask you, um, you know, you really know your stuff. I mean, anybody listening to you for a minute can pick that up. But not only do you know your stuff, and of course, you've had, what is it, over 20 plus 25 years in the field, but you also can break things down very simply and understand, and then they react and relate to people. What got you started in this field? Was there, some aha moment that happened growing up, or what got you on this track?
Well, I'll share a bit. When I was finishing my undergraduate degree, I was trying to decide what I wanted to pursue as my master's degree. And I hadn't made a decision yet. My hall director was in the counseling program. And
Okay.
she came to me and she said, we have to select, and the term was guinea pigs back then, to
Yes,
practice
I
on.
remember those terms. Yeah.
So she said, you won't be my guinea pig, but you'll be another student's guinea pig. Would you be willing to participate? So I told her yes. And I was the guinea pig for this young white male student. And back then, the counselor and the client would be on one side, and there would be a two-way mirror for the professor and the students to observe him. They weren't
Mhm.
so interested in me, they were interested in the student. And
Mhm.
he was the therapist. So he was very, very good. I thought this is something that I like, even though he was getting deep into my business. I
Yeah.
was like, I was like, okay, I want to be on the other side. I want to be
Mm.
the therapist. So
Mhm.
that helped me make my decision to enter the master's program in counseling and then to proceed to the doctorate in psychology. He was
Mhm.
outstanding. And then to back it up a little further, I knew how to keep people's secrets. I learned that as a
Mm.
child
Ooh.
because my mother said, which was interesting, what's said in this house stays in this house.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
oftentimes, as I have matured in my business, know that those secrets hurt people. you aren't able to release the childhood trauma that you may have experienced. And it is kept inside, which then can create physical issues, which is another piece that you mentioned earlier. How does it affect us physically? Oftentimes, people have ulcers. They have upset stomachs where they're nauseous all of the time. They may experience panic attacks from anxiety that they're experiencing. So heart palpitations, stress, all kinds of things that cause them pain, which then we get into COPD, we get into diabetes, we get into heart disease that hurt us when we don't take good care of our mental health.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm grateful for that therapist who,
Yes.
who you looked at, admired, and
Yes.
started you on your way, but also appreciative of your mom
Yes.
who taught you the value of being able to keep things private and
Yes.
confidential, because that creates an environment where people feel safe.
Absolutely. And that they can
Yeah,
trust.
absolutely.
One of the things I learned very early in my career was that I let people approach me, particularly my patients that I see out socially, that I may
Mhm.
see at an event. I always let people approach me. Once
Mhm.
I was doing some work for Comerica Bank in Auburn Hills. It was lunchtime. I saw a group of women leaving the building going to lunch. I was going in. One of the women was my patient.
Uh-huh.
She looked at me like, please don't say anything to me. I don't want anybody to know. So my role is to allow people to approach me.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we just have a pleasant nod and we keep it moving.
I just love it. I love it. I love it. So, Dr. Furman, I want to particularly for those of you who are joining us live, please drop your questions or comments, because the next section of our conversation we're going to be talking about some of those success strategies you can use, because Dr. Furman is the ultimate in providing some real great advice, expertise, and some real deal conversation. So, if you have a question, please drop it in. Let us know how you're feeling, how you're reacting to this conversation. And for those of you on the replay, there's going to be so much information coming out, and we're going to make sure that you have a way. In fact, let's do that right now, Dr. Furman. How can people connect with you? And we're going to talk about some other things. We're going to talk about success strategies. We're going to talk about your book. But right here now, let's just pause. And how can people connect with you?
Absolutely. They can reach me at 248-443-8494. That is my office number for the Center for Individual and Family Counseling. I'm located in Southfield, just south of 13 Mile Road, next door to Target. My office number again is 248-443-8494. I have a
Great.
team of therapists that work with me. So
Mm-hmm.
it is an opportunity to seek some assistance. Don't stay stuck. Get some assistance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And we'll put that number on the screen for you. And there it is. You can see it
Yes.
scrolling about how you can connect with Dr. Furman. And it will be a phenomenal experience for you, because you could just tell right now, the gem she be dropping. And the thing is, again, you can understand what she's talking about. At the beginning, remember, I asked her one of them deep questions, and she just broke it down for us. So Dr. Furman, I want to talk about this, about physical health, a
Yes.
little bit. And you've clearly helped us understand the emotions, what we feel,
Yes.
how we feel, anger, sadness, concern,
Yes.
worry, all those things, and our behavior, how we act,
Yes.
what we do. Now let's bring into the conversation physical health.
Yes.
How does that relate to our emotional and behavior and all of that in the midst of a post-pandemic era?
In the midst of a post-pandemic era, as we look at our physical health, you want to be extremely conscientious of it, because many of us were not able to seek the medical attention that we needed because of the offices being closed, particularly dental care. And so it is important to get back on track with the medical care that you need and to get your appointments in. It is crucial. Your colonoscopies, everything that you need, your mammograms, you want to make sure that you are seeking the help right now because it is available. Don't wait any longer. I want to speak real briefly about diabetes.
Please.
My mother
Okay.
was a diabetic. When she was in her early 50s, she was diagnosed with diabetes. She came to visit me for Christmas. I drove to Cleveland, which is my home, to pick her up, came to Detroit, was supposed to be a 1 week stay, ended up being 6 months. So right now, I think about what changed. I changed her diet completely because type
Okay.
2 diabetes happens to be an illness that you are in charge of. I changed her diet and I made her exercise. She was 70 at that point, struggling with diabetes for 20 years, taking 60 units of insulin on a daily basis. Now, did she like me? She was not fond of me at that particular time. I also have a cake business. So cake business, baking cakes, Christmas time, she's
Oh.
selling them. And she's like, well, can I have a slice? And I was saying, no, you can't. But I got her off of 60 units of insulin. She was on a excellent diet. It changed her life. So speaking of our health, diabetes is one of those illnesses that we are in charge of. Take charge of it. Strategies, Dr. Geneva, strategies.
Yes.
Get in tune with yourself. Take
Okay.
some time to sit quietly by yourself. Mindfulness, the idea of just being by yourself, at least for 15, 20 minutes a day, where you are able to just pause and reconnect. Some people meditate, some people pray. The idea is to rejuvenate yourself. You need that time to be able to quietly do that. It will help you integrate better with your family or your significant other, your neighbor, your coworkers. It will create a space for you to be calm and relaxed. Get plenty of rest. Eat a healthy diet. All of that will be an asset to you to being your best self.
Yes. Oh, I love that. The time for yourself, eat right, that whole reflecting, that pause,
Yes,
just take a moment to just stop
yes,
and just sit back and be into yourself. I love it. I love it. I just think that's so important. Dr. Furman, I have a ebook about how you can turn excitement and worry into positive thinking and why worry, and this ebook bundle, and there are a list of things that you can do, but what you gave me, that's my favorite. That's my favorite, that pause.
yes,
I think it's because it's something that I think I like it most because it's something that anybody can do. You don't
yes.
need no tools, you don't need no equipment, you don't need no special expertise.
No,
You can just do it.
yes,
And
yes,
so that means no excuses,
yes,
no excuses.
yes.
How do we um, uh, find how do we find various strategies to turn our anxiety and fear into positive thinking? I mean, should we read about it? Of course, listening We want people to listen to this podcast. That's a great
Yes.
way to
Yes.
find out. But how do you find out what to do?
Well, we have the World Wide Web. And so we
Yes.
have the internet, the ability to research a variety of things that you are able to discover what works for you. There is an app called Calm, CALM, that is very relaxing that individuals can use. Connect with somebody if you have a friend who is supportive, who is positive. So this may make you do some housekeeping on friends and people in your circle to eliminate folks that are not headed in the same direction. And that's okay. You know, people are in our lives for a variety of reasons.
And so what did you say, Dr. Furman? Housekeeping on your friends.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. And just like we do our home in terms of spring cleaning, sometimes we have to get rid of some things. So explore who is in your circle that needs to be, and explore who is in your circle that does not need to be.
And this is all related to our, mental, emotional health.
Correct. We have been in an unprecedented time, as I said. Stress levels for individuals, couples, families are through the roof. I have had so many patients that have suffered grief and loss issues during this pandemic, not knowing what was going to happen next, being told to prepare for funerals, being told that their loved one is going to come home. However, it's not looking good. It has been challenging for so many people trying to decide, can I work from home? Can I go back into the office? If you have children under 12, can you continue to work from home and educate them if you don't want them to be vaccinated? It's a variety of concerns that we are coping with at this time. So one day at a time. And another thing that I didn't mention is alcohol and drug use is often accelerated when stress is in it.
So does that mean we can't drink, Dr. Furman?
Absolutely not. I'm saying drink with moderation.
Okay. All right. So what does moderate? I can't tell you how many times we've all heard that.
Yes.
What does moderation mean?
2 glasses of wine in the evening would be a moderate amount. A glass that is served the way they serve it in the restaurant, which is kind of half full.
Yes.
So it's not a bottle of wine. It's 2 glasses served the way they serve it in the restaurant.
Okay.
So recognizing that oftentimes people use drugs and alcohol to try to relax. And alcohol happens to be a depressant. So if you were already sad and not feeling that great, alcohol does not help. So don't use it inappropriately trying to relax. That's not what you want to do. Exercise and sleep can also be a great benefit to your mental health.
Now, how does sleep benefit our mental health?
The idea that we give our brain a rest. Oftentimes with anxiety, our minds are racing. We are scattered. We are multitasking. We are trying to do so many things at the same time. So sleep allows our body to relax if we can get into that deep sleep mode, which hopefully you can. And if there are problems sleeping, make sure you mention that to your physician.
Okay. So, Dr. Furman.
Yes.
When God shows up on the couch, what happens?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
For those of you who didn't hear the intro, that's the title of Dr. Furman's best-selling book, When God Shows Up on the Couch. So that's why I'm asking her, what happens?
Let me tell you, after several years of listening to my patients and the challenges that they experience, and then to come back with an amazing experience that could only be spiritual, It just came to me that I needed to document what some folks have been through and how their spiritual connection in therapy, because it's psychotherapy and their spiritual life that makes a world a difference. So it is stories of severe trauma. In fact, the first story has to do with rape and incest and how she came through. It is marital relationships issues, it's alcohol, it is parent-child concerns. It explores a variety, but how they came through.
And all of how they came through, because God was in the house. I mean, that's what I'm hearing is that that spiritual being and that spiritual well-being. Because as we talk about the physical well-being, the mental and emotional, wellness state. What you're saying is we got to put in that spiritual well-being in it as well.
Absolutely. And it just happens to be one of the questions on my form. It gives me a good idea about where a person is in their spiritual relationship. I'm not talking about a denomination. I'm talking about a relationship with a higher power. So then each person comes to that realization on their own, and it just shows up amazingly in therapy.
And it's required reading, I understand, for the Ecumenical Theological Seminary.
Yes, I was delighted to be selected.
Oh my goodness, what an honor.
It was fantastic. I was so pleased to present there, as well as have them indicate it as being required reading.
Oh, what an honor. Well, Dr. Furman, as we're winding down this conversation, and I so much appreciate you, I want to make sure that we've gotten out the goodies, those strategies, that help our viewers and listeners, really get that ultimate guide to making these positive changes. So I want to make sure that we've, gotten out everything you want to give us.
Absolutely. Well, the nugget that I really want to share is don't be afraid of therapy.
Okay.
Don't be afraid. When you have a need or a family member has a need and you know that something isn't quite right, seek assistance. It's okay. We have in our African American culture have had many things that we have said, like just pray about it. And as you just heard me say, I integrated spirituality with psychotherapy. It was not separate. So it was together. So let us not hinder ourselves from getting help. Oftentimes, individuals who may not be fully insured think that they can't get assistance, but it is available. So discover who you want to see. If you want to see a man or a woman or, a senior like myself, or somebody who can offer assistance to you when you are struggling, you don't have to stay stuck.
Absolutely. And I can attest to that because, when I've had, I had a particular traumatic experience in my life, and a friend of mine who had a similar experience, the loss of a spouse, suggested that, and it was the best thing going into therapy was the best thing I ever did in my life. So I absolutely agree with that. And Dr. Furman, I saw a question. I think Tisha Hammond had a question for us because she was curious. And, that's a great question. How were you able to get your book into a course curriculum, like at the seminary? How did you do that?
Well, I happened to attend Hartford Memorial Baptist Church, and there was a dean at the time at the Ecumenical Theological Seminary who read my book and said he wanted to present it to the president there of the school, which he did. And the president then said he wanted me to do a presentation, which I did. And after the presentation, they acknowledged that this was a piece of literature that they wanted there at the school for their seminary students.
Phenomenal. So being certainly at the right place at the right time, but you had to bringing the right expertise.
Yes.
So you had all of those, your meritorious study and all of your experience, and you were at a good place and it was there and available. Well, congratulations to you, Dr. Furman. I mean, it's just really such a phenomenal honor, and so I am just so pleased, and I want to give you so we want to put up your number, your phone number again for anyone who wants to. There we are, 248-443-8494. If you want to connect with Dr. Furman, drop some information in the comments about this discussion, how you feel about it, whether you're live with us now or on the replay. We really want to hear from you. I was just, as I mentioned earlier, was so looking forward to this conversation because I know Dr. Furman, and she did not disappoint at all. Thank you for those strategies. Let me give you is there anything you'd like to say as we close?
I want to say thank you very much for this opportunity. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you thinking of me and recognizing that our mental health is absolutely at the top of the list for us to take good care of it. We don't have to struggle. We can get help, support, assistance, because many of us are dealing with excruciating pain, and we do not have to continue to do so.
That's right. Well, thank you, Dr. Pauline Furman, for being who you are, for having 29 years plus in this field, helping people with their hurt.
Yes.
And helping people create positive change. And that's why I'm so delighted you shared the success strategies with us to do that. And so thank you so much for everything. We love you.
And I love you. Thank you again. Have a fabulous day.
Thank you. And so, fabulous conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to know if it made a difference for you. Did you like this conversation? Would you like to have more, goodies and great information about how you can turn your worries, your concerns, your doubts into positive changes? And, that's what we're all about, getting those, finding out and using those success strategies that can, in fact, help you create that extraordinary impact in yourself, in the lives of others, in your community. So don't forget, please, I'd love for you to read my Why Worry bundle of great information, where I give success strategies and tips and practical advice about how you can turn around, defeat worry and stress and doubt with some simple practical tips. And so I'd love to hear what you think about that and the positive strategies we've talked about today. So again, hey, Andre, I see that Andre is there. Oh, yes. So Andre says it's a serious issue. It is. Yes, the body follows the mind. I think, therefore I am. What a fabulous, thank you, Andre. What a fabulous reminder, quote, saying for us to close out this segment. Hope you enjoyed it. Ignite to Impact coming to you live. Love you. See you the next time.
Ignite to Impact.